Good morning, everybody. My name's David Lund. I'm the project coordinator for Project BroadMap. My how do I put it, a part-time job really is also as a board member of Public Safety Communication Europe Forum. So back in 7 or 8 years ago, we were formed as the result of the outcome of a European project, where it was seen that it was needed to gather together a network, end users, industry and researchers to solve the next problems of public safety communications. So BroadMap is actually a result of some of this networking and collaboration we've been working on in recent years. So about 2 years ago, if not more, we identified that the European Commission had asked for a project to validate requirements for broadband interoperable mobile communications for BPDR. So in November, December 14, we gathered together a team of interested people who came to PSCA and said, okay, there's a reasonably neutral forum. We as the end user community would like to address this program. So over a period of around 16 months, we addressed this call. So this is the European Commission's call. DRS 18 was the famous words back then. And this is all about the interoperability of next generation broadband radio. So the request from the Commission was put together a team of at least 8 end users for a project for 1 year, roughly 1 year, with a limited budget of around €2 million, to define what next generation interoperable broadband around Europe would look like. And the Commission are continually reminding me that they've spent tens of millions, I think 40–50 million euro on research projects for which our work has to leverage. We have to listen to that. This is not about generating new requirements. This is about understanding the research that's been going on in previous years and in recent years to determine what the requirements, specifications, solutions and transition roadmaps for around the different areas of Europe, different countries in Europe, to transition towards interoperable application services, networks and devices. Note from my presentation this morning, I always talk about the applications and down rather than the technology up. This is coming from an end user perspective, what we're doing here. So this is a part of a reasonably new framework from the European Commission in terms of their funding. As you know, there are a million and one projects being funded by the European Commission in terms of research and innovation. The Horizon 2020 programme has something like €79 billion budget. Lots of research and development going on. But this is very different. This is not a research project. This is a lead-in to a procurement project. So the green arrow on the left-hand side is BroadMap. That's our project. So we define requirements, solutions, transition, road mapping and so on, which will then lead into another program later on in 2018, which will then be what you call a pre-commercial procurement project. Pre-commercial procurement is not procurement of networks and devices to put together new networks. This is about procuring the research and development needed to fill the requirements that have not been set, not been addressed yet. So yes, there's lots of technologies around us today in this room, but perhaps they're not all yet addressing the requirements that we're going to ascertain within the first year of this project. The process is quite a complex one. We start off with the specification project, which is what we're doing now. We began on the 1st of May and we run until April of next year, or 12 months. And then we have to bid again to win the pre-commercial procurement project, which we then would put out the request for tender. And this is a formal procurement for research and development, not a classical call for proposals for research. So it's specifically directed activity. And you can see in phase 1, 2 and 3 there, you start with a number of suppliers, and then the best athlete somewhat wins as you go along, and then you get to phase 3, which in the next programme, which is already specified by the Commission, they are looking for a TRL-8 prototype networks. This is interoperable, so between different countries, not just within a country. So the last phase, phase 4, this is what we call a PPI, Public Procurement of Innovative Solutions, and the PPI is actually the procurement of the actual end products to deploy out then the full networks. Okay, so our goal is establishing the PPI requirements, a core set of specifications, and the roadmap for procurement to achieve this future evolution of EU broadband applications and interoperable radio communication solutions. We're going to collect, assess and validate PBDR wireless broadband communication requirements, establish the core set of specifications, define transition roadmaps, and overall prepare the ground for this new ecosystem of broadband interoperability. Applications, again, being the first word in the list. The approach in the project, the way we're going to carry out this validation and specification, we've spent already the first month, we're at the end of the first month of the project, collating information and requirements from the existing documents. So there's been a very large list of documents which have come from studies by TCCA, by in ETSI, in the different projects like SALOS, PBDRTC, and so on. There's many documents that have been scrutinised. And we're gathering together what are those requirements that people have already identified that we should consider. And the next step is to validate those requirements. So our partnership consists of 15 end users in 15 different countries. Each of those end users will be running national workshops with a list of these requirements to then a set of questions somewhat and different workshops and different methods to ascertain which of these requirements they really need, the end users really need, and prioritise those and so on. The next step after the validation of requirements is establishing this core set of specifications, so a translation between requirements to specifications. And then of course the transition roadmap. So we heard this morning about the different stages of Tetra deployment in different countries and the different stages of LTE deployment in different countries, and how are these transitions going to differ between the different countries, and moreover how do we transition in different time frames but still retain that interoperability between countries. There's quite some challenges to have there. And then the final definition of the transition roadmaps and the PCP specification, that feeds in then to the next year's programme. We will have 2 public events. We have an end user stakeholder event in October, and we have a final stakeholder event in April, April 17. And there's some important messages, especially with regard to the industry involvement in this, which I'll get to shortly. It's just a list of the consortium. As you'll see, we have 15 end users, 8 of which are a responsible ministry in their country, and it's a mix of end users stroke buyers. PSCE, that's ourselves at the top, we're the project coordinator. We are not involved in the actual core work, we are there for coordination. And at the bottom there we have DGFLA, who are our legal partners who deal with all the complex problems of future procurement. We have some core principles, so all output is generated from an end user perspective. We've got to gather the widest reach across Europe as possible, okay? And to utilise existing and relevant materials previously developed, and really leverage our combined expertise within the project, and the cross-fertilisation to avoid this duplication and so on. At the bottom there we're looking at legacy investment of state-of-the-art, and second from the bottom, influencing EU policy and standardisation. So of course, a lot of these gaps are not going to be filled without some policy change or some standardisation activity. Okay. So we have 5 work packages, and the numbers have changed, but that doesn't matter. So requirements, solutions and roadmaps, outreach and project management. Now, the importance here is the end user, nearly there, is the end user input to our workshops. So on the website, the BroadMap website, there is a program now published of when these workshops are and where they are in which countries. So if you're an end user and you're not aware of us, please get in touch. There's a form on the website, and come and join these workshops, because we need that broadest reach of input in the requirements validation. Now, industry, research, we had many questions at the start of this from industry, well, and from researchers. Well, you need our input because we've built all this technology and so on. That's fine, we do. But this is a procurement project, so any industry input now will eliminate involvement in the procurement phase later. So we have to be very carefully controlled that this is entirely an end user input project. So we cannot have any industry involvement. Our April meeting will be inviting industry to that in April 17, first week of April 17, and we invite you all to come along and find out about that. So we had to take some precautions to protect industry from any potential conflicts of interest. Timeline, I've already said some of this earlier. We've already begun, and we're looking at 2021-ish, 25 for the actual full networks at the end. And there's the list of partners. There's our nice family of logos, and that's it from me. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, David. So we still have time for question.
Okay.
Is there any question for David? No, if not, then thank you.
Sorry. No. Hi, David. Just a quick question. In the work program, current version of the work program for security area in Horizon 2020, it says specifically that DRS 18, upon the decision of DRS 18, the Commission will decide whether a stage 0 will be needed for the PCP or not.
Yeah.
For me, your slide was not clear whether you were at phase 0 or there will be another phase 0. So could you clarify it a bit?
It's not an easy one to clarify, because there's 2 modes. There's one where you form a new legal entity. There's another mode where you continue with the way you're working, and really that's not decided yet. Okay, so the next topic, which is DRS4, SECO 4, it still mentions the 2 options, so we don't have an answer to that.